and welcome to another episode of Extra Blue, powered by Gear West. On this episode, I welcome two guests, Adam Witkowski and Skylar Patten. Both Adam and Skylar are new teammates of mine, having joined Team Birkie this last spring. Adam recently switched teams from SMS to Team Birkie. He had previously gone to college at Michigan Tech University and was clearly missing the Midwest and decided to move on back. Meanwhile, Skylar recently graduated from Michigan Tech University just this last spring and decided to join Team Birkie right away. In this episode, we talk about how they both ended up at Michigan Tech, what their time was like there, and then we dive into injury talk. Both Adam and Skylar have faced numerous injuries over the years. I think we only discuss about half of them in this episode, and it's plenty lengthy. But we discuss how they dealt with training through injury, rehab, and staying motivated and driven throughout the healing process. There's no easy way to say it. Injuries suck. But these two have put their heads down through the healing and rehab process to continue pursuing their goals in ski racing. At the end of the day, they both want to ski fast. That's the number one goal. And they are going to do whatever they can on a day-to-day basis to ski as fast as they can come winter. I hope you enjoy this episode with Adam and Skylar. This podcast is powered by Gear West, a specialty sports campus which has supported and inspired me for years. If you're near Minneapolis, their incredible 25,000 square foot store is just about 5 minutes west of Ridgedale and offers the largest Nordic selection in the country. And no matter where you are, their website is a fantastic resource for learning, motivation, and the gear. Everything you need to chase your goals in Nordic and alpine skiing, biking, running, and all kinds of cross training. Check out gearwest.com. I'm super grateful to have their support, and as a reminder, you can now watch these episodes on Gear West's YouTube channel.
So much pressure.
Okay, we're feeling some pressure today on this episode of Extra Blue. We have Adam Witkowski and Skylar Patten. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being here. Adam, let's start with you. How are you doing? How is your day going so far?
We're doing pretty good. I slept in till 7:15, which is a decent record for me, I guess. And then I had to scrape all of my skis, so that's like 26 pair, because I'm going to see Matt Leach tomorrow at Pioneer Midwest. So
Okay.
he's gonna look over my fleet for the winter. So that was my morning. That took a solid hour and a half, but
Yeah.
other than that, we've had a great day.
'Tis the season of dusting off those skis again.
Oh yeah, it's only 2 months away until the first races, so you gotta
I
get
know, that's
the
crazy.
mind turning back towards the winter.
How'd the skis look when you dusted them off? Did they give you like little butterflies in your stomach, or were you like, I'm not ready for you yet?
A lot of them I was like, man, I have not skied on you ever before, so lots of new ones to feel out. So
Okay. So some room for improvement or education on some of those skis.
yeah, we got a pretty good grasp on them, but yeah, we'll hopefully be able to ski a little bit more this winter and learn all of them a little bit more than we already do.
Nice. Okay. Well, Skylar, I want to switch to you. How are you doing today? What have you been up to so far on this off day?
Very different morning compared to Adam. I wake up an hour later and then eat breakfast and then I just sit on my computer and work on my thesis. Really excited.
Yeah.
I'm just laying on the couch.
Lovely. Okay. I'm kind of with you. I was bummed when I woke up at like 8:20 and I was like, that's all I slept. I was really hoping last weekend I slept in until 9:30 on my off day. And so I was trying to kind of beat that record. That is so uncommon for me. Like usually I'm a little bit more on the Adam train, but I feel like lately I could use a little more sleep. So Skylar, I guess you and I are on a similar page.
Yeah,
With that,
I probably
that's
could have slept longer, but last week was like a big volume week, so I did not work on my thesis as much as I wanted. So I'm trying to catch up a little bit on the rest week.
Okay, so can you share what your thesis is on and what are you working on right now?
I'm working on a thesis in material science, but it's basically metallurgy because it can take recycled content, specifically magnesium.
Okay. And what does that mean then?
Um, so I started, basically my project is sponsored by the Department of Energy, and they want, um, I guess it's actually a landfill mining project, but I'm not really touching that because they want to mine landfills to pick up aluminum, but the aluminum in mines are so corroded that it's not very useful. But
Mm.
the aluminum industry does take in a bunch of recycled scrap and they sort it into basically what it came out from, because it takes 5% of the energy to recycle aluminum than it does to just make it from bauxite and
Mm.
process it from mining. So it's like really energy efficient and saves them tons of money. It makes them look a lot greener. So my project is basically I was looking at different systems. So there's a lot of alloys that have magnesium that don't really get turned into anything else. So designing an alloy that contains a lot of magnesium is good. And then the recycling process inherently has a lot of iron contamination. So having alloys that contain a lot of iron is also really important to design recyclable alloys.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna say that most of that just went right over my head, but
Yeah, I
it
don't know
sounded
how to
really
really,
smart.
like, I gotta work on explaining it to other people.
To an elementary school brain.
Yeah, it's hard. Oh yeah. The main
Okay.
takeaways are that recycling is very energy efficient, and I'm
Okay.
trying to make one for a specific alloy class, basically.
Okay, so that's interesting because I feel like there's been so many hot takes lately about like should you actually recycle or like is it actually worth recycling? And I guess I listened to a couple of podcasts. I haven't done that much research on it, but what I've heard is that for sure recycling aluminum cans, like if you're drinking a soda or seltzer, anything in aluminum, that is worth recycling. Plastic and glass and stuff like kind of just ends up it'd be better to just go into a landfill. Um, and that the big key takeaway is that, or like big part is that it has to be clean. Like if you put anything in there, like a peanut butter jar that still has peanut butter in it, is just kind of a waste and like should just go in the garbage. But I'm curious, hot take, where would Skylar fall on that?
I agree with that. Like aluminum cans are really highly recyclable, and there's like life cycles like pretty easy to stick with. Other stuff like on the same page, like it has to be so clean. And, like recycling all the different types of plastics is kind of well, aluminum sorting. I think is better than that, unfortunately.
Okay. Okay.
But
So,
this is also like within big industries. I think industry probably has more waste than
oh,
just people in general.
yeah. Oh,
But
interesting. Okay. Hmm. Wow. I didn't even think about industry. I was thinking specifically like household recycling, but that makes sense
if you
actually.
just think about like the packaging that like
Yeah.
industry uses, it's got to be like on such a larger scale than we ever think.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, so ski podcast turned science, recycling, environmental studies podcast. I don't know that much about it all, but it's interesting to hear you talk about it. So, Skylar, you recently graduated from Michigan Tech University, and so that's why you're still working on wrapping up your thesis right now. Is that accurate? When is your deadline?
I'm on my last semester, so I'm trying to finish my till
Okay.
I guess like till the end of the semester, but I don't want to be working on it in November because that's when we ski. So
Yeah.
that's my deadline. But self-imposed deadlines have been going very well so far.
Okay. Okay. Well, we wish you the best with your thesis writing. But congratulations on graduating. We have another recent, well, somewhat recent Husky graduate, Michigan Tech. So you both, Adam and Skylar, you both went to Michigan Tech. We're going to talk about that a little bit more, but I kind of want to step backwards and just ask you both a little bit more about the background of how you got into skiing, where you grew up. Um, what was your pathway like from high school through college? And Adam, I want to start with you. So if you can give us like your quick and dirty little background of who Adam is as a skier.
Yeah. Well, I was born and raised in Rochester, New York, uh, one of the bigger cities in New York, but not very well known for its skiing, let's say. My dad introduced me to skiing. He learned how to ski when he was in high school, and so him and my mom took over the local BKL program when I was about 5. And so I was in that until I was 12, and we would ski around a 1K loop at the top of a alpine hill about half an hour south of our house. That's really the only place you can ski in Rochester unless there's a lot of snow. And then from there, I spent 5 years at Stratton Mountain School, um, 8th grade through 12th grade, and then had my first go around with the college recruiting process and didn't really like the options I was given, so I decided to PG in Sun Valley. So I did that for a year with an awesome group of people, and that's kind of where I got my first taste of outside of East Coast skiing, because all I had ever known was NENSA and EISA and whatnot, and that really opened up my eyes to being like, oh, there's a lot more than outside the East Coast. And so that's when I really started to look at Michigan Tech and kind of fell in love with it right away and knew that it was a pretty good fit. And so committed there about halfway through my PG year, spent 4 years there studying. Well, I studied skiing, let's say. I've really studied finance, but at an engineering school, finance isn't too high up on the list of hard subjects to learn. So 4 years of skiing and doing a little bit of finance on the side, and then I graduated in 2023.
All right, and what brought you from Stratton out to Sun Valley? Like, what made you to decide to take that shift?
Yeah, when I first was going through the college looking process, I was only looking at schools in the East, and I knew I wanted to go towards more of a state college with as opposed to like a liberal arts college, which you find out a lot of in the East with like a lot of the main schools and stuff. So that already narrowed my options down to only 3 or 4 schools. And at that time, I mean, I was a pretty good skier, but not at the top echelon of people in my age. I mean, I'm born in the same year as Ben and Gus and Luke and all those guys who are now,
Those
uh,
2000s.
yeah, the 2000 boys. So
Quite
you
the
can be
year.
really good and be not that good at the same time. So I only had I had 2 offers to ski in college, but neither of them felt like the right fit. And so just like postponing a year of making that decision, I guess. And Sun Valley seemed like a good place for me to like reset, have a clean mind, maybe get out of some stuff that was going on in my own head when I was in high school, because high school is a hard time for a lot of people. And
Mhm.
at a ski academy, it doesn't mean it's all sunshine and rainbows all the time. So kind of moving across the country was like a fresh start, and I could kind of restart not only skiing wise, but also where I wanted to choose to direct my life towards. So it was a really good decision, and yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. Met a lot of good people.
Nice. And so I love hearing that. I know that there was a very key moment that maybe stands out in at your time in Sun Valley, and that was some spring skiing up at Galena. Can you share with us what happened on that day? This was at the end of your PG year, right? You'd kind of like finished the year and then
Yeah,
doing
it was
spring skiing.
April 24th, and we were like, okay, there's not many good skiing days left, so we're gonna have an epic day where we're gonna go cross country skiing, norpining, and play golf in the same day, because that's a
Because why
pretty
not?
good combo, and you can't really do that too many places. And so we stayed up late the night before playing video games as 19-year-olds do when they have no supervision. And so I was off of 2 hours of sleep and we were out for a 5-hour ski. And we decided to send the trail. What's it called again, Skylar?
Psych.
Psycho. Psycho's the trail. We decided to try to get the KOM on Strava. And I hit 42 miles an hour and then started to fall and slide on my belly towards the woods. And I ended up hitting a tree with my leg, and my leg wrapped around that tree. And that kind of ruined not only that day, but many days after that too. So I ended up breaking my femur clean in half and spent 78 minutes on the side of the trail with my friend Daniel holding my leg in the two pieces so that it wouldn't hurt, as my other friend Jacob was skiing off to get cell service to call 911, skiing back to the car to get blankets and jackets so that we weren't freezing to death on the side of the trail. So it took 78 minutes before the paramedics could arrive and give some painkillers and try to load me onto a snowmobile to get me out of there. But that was a pretty crazy experience.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that. This was like before we even knew each other, and I just heard about you wrapping your leg around a tree, and I was like, I kind of like vomited in my mouth, I think, when I heard about it, and just thinking about that, like that sounds so awful, and I can't even imagine going through an injury like that, let alone like on the side of a trail when it's like, Sun Valley could be warm and sunny, but it's still cold and you've been skiing. So, and the body, I have to imagine, goes into a little bit of shock there. So, um, that sounds really horrible and devastating. And, like maybe a difficult injury to overcome. How long did that kind of like take you out for?
Yeah, so femur injuries are a little weird. I was actually walking 2 days after I broke it, which is crazy to hear, but they insert a rod through your bone because your bones on the inside are hollow. So I have a rod through my femur and then two screws in my hip and two screws in my knee that I decided not to take out. So they're all still in my leg. And so I was walking kind of with crutches and a little bit of help after 2 days, but then I was roller skiing at 2 months, which was a few months before they told me to. And I ended up trying to race that next winter, which was only 5.5 months after the injury, I think was the first race. But my leg wasn't, there was so much stuff internally that was still wrong. Like the blood flow wasn't
Yeah.
there. It would still get swollen at times. And so there was a lot of issues going on that you couldn't see to the naked eye. Obviously, your muscles aren't as strong as they used to be. So in order to set your bone back together, they actually have to pull your leg apart. And so when your bone breaks,
Mm.
my one leg was maybe 4 inches shorter than the other when it broke because the muscles contract. And so in order to put the bone back so that it's touching in the right spot, they actually have to pull your leg longer than your other leg.
Oh my God.
And so it rips all of the muscles in your quad and your hamstring. And so I had to basically rebuild that whole leg. And that's something that I didn't really know at the time that I had to rebuild the whole thing. So that first season was, uh, it was a good attempt, but it wasn't realistic, I should say. And so that really took like 2 or 3 years before I could rebuild the whole leg and it would like actually have blood circulation during racing.
Mm.
Um, Easy skiing was a lot easier because you're obviously not putting as much power out and your blood's not pumping as hard. So it really took, I would say, the first like good race I had after my broken leg was 3 years after my leg injury happened. So it was a while, but
Yeah. Do you think that if you had taken a more patient approach to begin with, would it have recovered faster, or do you feel like it was kind of just going to take that much time to fully get 100% again, no matter what?
yeah, I think it would have taken the time no matter what. Just because like pushing through in like 3 or 4 ski races at the beginning of the year probably didn't take away too much. Maybe I could have spent that time in the gym instead, trying to rebuild the muscle. But I think with big injuries like that, it just really takes time for your body to recognize, oh, something's different. We have to fix it. Like, and so much stuff happens when you hit a tree at 27 miles an hour that
Yeah.
you can't you can never really calculate it out and be like, oh, in 8 months you'll be fine, because
Right.
there's so many random nerves and tissues and muscles and whatever in your leg that you don't really have fully control over when you're recovering. So I think I did an okay job of it. I mean, obviously, if I broke my other femur, I would have a better understanding of how to rebuild it the next time, but we don't plan on doing that. So for a 19-year-old, I think we did pretty good, and
Okay.
I think it just takes time with those big injuries.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, that sounds like quite the process, and I cannot even imagine going through something like that and having an injury like that where it is ongoing for not just a few months, but a few years, and having to kind of like always tweak things and manage things and, change how you're training or change your approach. So, um, a lot of respect for what you have done to rehab that leg and get through some not amazing times and come out still loving ski racing.
Yeah, well, if you had to break your leg at a certain year, I think that was a pretty good one to do it. You're fully grown, so you don't have to go back in and take out the hardware if you were before you hit your growth spurt. And also, it was before freshman year of college, which is like a transition year anyways. And then it was COVID the
Mhm.
next year, so
Mm,
I didn't miss out on too much, but it still
okay.
is a year or two out of skiing, which can be hard depending on how you take it. But
Yeah. Yeah, no matter what, that's not gonna be fun. Um, okay, so that is quite the injury. Skylar, we're gonna shift to you. I'd love to know a little bit more about your background as a skier, growing up in Park City. How did you start skiing? What did that look like? And how did you end up at Michigan Tech? And what injuries did you have over the years? Like up until Michigan Tech, maybe.
until Michigan Tech.
Yeah.
Uh, so I grew up in Salt Lake, and I've been on ski since I was two, but mostly alpine skiing. Grew up skiing at Alta basically every Sunday. Then we moved to Park City in sixth grade, and at the time I was still playing soccer. But my brother got into mountain biking, and I was kind of the younger brother that just did whatever he did, so I followed him into that. And we grew up on like Nordic skis. We went to West Yellowstone like pretty frequently over Thanksgiving. So I was on Nordic skis, but then with mountain biking, that kind of was like, oh, you can stay fit and Nordic ski in the winter. There's across the street that my friends with was also Nordic skiing, so started doing that. But actually, really thought it was going to be a racer for the longest time. And then I qualified for JNs, and I was like, oh, dang, this is pretty cool. Like, I had no idea what it was. And then I got there, I was like, holy, this is insane.
Yeah.
And then I got a discretionary pick for a U16 camp in Duluth. I was like, okay, this is pretty sweet. Like, I've never experienced like a camp where you didn't have to, there's so many people so passionate about skiing, and it's like really fun. That was also there.
Hmm.
Like two of those, and I kind of was like, okay, I'm gonna ski. I'm not gonna mountain bike race anymore. All in on skiing. Uh, First year U18, I started, I guess, skiing college, and I knew I want to do material science, so that kind of narrowed down my schools to basically Michigan Tech, Boulder, or Utah. Utah was my top pick for so long because Utah's pretty great. Um, but I wasn't quite fast enough, so I also went to Sun Valley to improve my skiing the year after Adam did. And from then, I ended up just talking to Utah and Michigan Tech through that year, and I ended up signing with Michigan Tech at the end of that season. After only being, I've only visited it at senior nationals that year, I think, and I
Hmm.
forgot to go to the tour. Um,
So you really had quite the visit.
Yeah. I mean, I really liked the skiing there, and I was like, I, I just want snow and
Yeah,
like early snow. And that year they got snow like November 6th or something, and I was like, all right, this is what I want.
yeah.
Really good skiing, and like it is considerably better than the Nordic skiing is considerably better than what I was used to, and I really
Hmm.
enjoyed that.
Yeah, very cool.
I did that at Michigan Tech.
Nice. And did you have injuries before you got to school?
I got to school. Um, I guess I had my current injury 8 years ago during high school. So I had a stress fracture and a bulging disc. But it was so long ago that I kind of forgot like how I really dealt with it. It
Mm.
happened at the end of the ski season. I was like, all of a sudden, my back was really hurting. Everything had to walk back to the car
Mm.
and I went through a bunch of PT. Was told to not walk the cliff ever again. Actually, got back to doing that sometime in college. My back was doing it again. I had the same injury has arisen again this year.
Mm. Lovely. Love it when an injury comes back around and is like, I'm back.
Yeah,
uh,
not a good
okay.
one to have come back.
Yeah, that sounds painful. Okay, so we're going to circle back and kind of talk more about the injuries, but I do want to kind of just talk about the fact that you both ended up at Michigan Tech, both in places that are not the Midwest, and it seems like you both had a really lovely time there. So, can you share like how did it feel going to school there? What did you think? There's a lot of people who have a lot of things to say about Houghton, Michigan, and it isn't always nice. So I guess this is your chance. Like, what do you have to say about that? What stood out to you as being so great about Houghton and loving Michigan Tech?
Yeah, I would first say it's a place that gets better the more you know it.
Mm,
When you first get there, you kind of find yourself confined to like just campus or the trails on campus or whatever you can see from your dorm room or whatnot, or the roads that the seniors take you on for roller skiing or running or biking. But the more you're there and the more you explore, you realize that the Keweenaw Peninsula is like one of the most unique places in the entire world. Because it's basically just a rock in the middle of an ocean, but the ocean is Lake Superior. So,
yeah.
um, but yeah, when I first went there, I was like, oh, this is like a little different. Like, it's not anything I've ever experienced before, especially coming from Sun Valley and Stratton, which are both pretty well off elitist territories.
Hmm.
But Houghton is like total blue collar mining town, and it has that old charm to it.
Hmm.
But what you really love when you get a little older is just the opportunities that you have there. So there's obviously the ski trails on campus, but you also have like the classic only ski trail across the water in Hancock. You go 20 minutes up the road, you got Swedetown, which has running, biking, skiing all year long. The disc golf, obviously, is fantastic in the Keweenaw Peninsula. You got Copper Harbor 45 minutes up the road, which has like world-class mountain biking, uh, big cliffs down to the ocean, places to camp out in the middle of nowhere. Um, yeah, I mean, I could go on for probably an hour and a half talking about Houghton, but I think it's the most special place that I've ever gotten to live in my life. So
Aw,
it's pretty sweet,
yeah,
Skylar.
I would also say that most people hate on Houghton just because they visit in January, where like the
yeah.
weather is like going to be 75% not what you want. Um, but like there's times in the winter that are really good. Like I love a good Houghton snow blizzard, like skiing in a blizzard where you go barely 6 miles and then 3 hours is also amazing to me. It's just like a little snow globe up there. But
Yeah.
this summer was actually the first time I was there uh, in the summer. I've only ever been there in the fall, winter, and spring. The summer is actually amazing as well.
Yeah.
it's just so green and like such a different place than anywhere else. The mountain biking is insane and 5 minutes away.
You can go surfing in the
Yeah,
lake,
I guess we're
so
Right?
like you get your coastal fix as well. But
Yeah.
I'll definitely agree with Skylar. I think Houghton from January 1st to January 9th is maybe the worst 10 days you could possibly spend in Houghton, especially if you're
Yeah.
going there to like try to qualify for a trip and you've
Yeah.
never skied on really slow snow before and your races don't go as well as you want because you will not
Yeah.
see the sun on those days and it might be snowing the whole time. But outside of that week, it is really special, and there's always amazing crust skiing in the spring where you can go wherever you want. Our coach would love to go surfing after practice in the fall, which is just like I don't know where else you can really get that except for maybe New
Yeah.
Hampshire. So
Right.
lots of cool things to do.
Yeah, for sure. For any listeners who aren't really sure why we're being so skeptical about Houghton, it's that in the last like maybe 10 years, I think Houghton has hosted senior nationals, which always occurs like January 1st through the 9th or something. And I feel like every single time it has hosted senior nationals, you know, Ski America has shown up for Houghton, except half of them didn't actually show up because their planes got canceled. They couldn't get in. There was a snowstorm. They had just like the most awful travel day. They were delayed not only a few hours, but like a few days. They missed the races. Their ski bags didn't show up. Like it was just like as many things that could go wrong it seemed to go wrong, and half of the field dealt with some sort of mishap on the way there. And then when they got there, it was not only nonstop snowing, which you think like, oh, that's so fun. It's a snow globe. We love that. But also like somehow I feel like because it is in that peninsula off of Lake Superior, it can both be snowing and like minus 10 degrees at the same time. Typically you don't get those two combinations. It's like, oh, if it's snowing, it's not going to be that cold, or if it is that cold, it's not going to actually snow. But somehow in Houghton, it can be both freezing cold and snowing at the same time. And um yeah,
And
it seems
windy.
like every and
You forgot
windy,
about the
exactly.
wind.
How could I
Going
forget?
into the
Yes.
finish line with a 20-mile-an-hour headwind moving at 8 miles an hour.
And it's a
think
gradual
my
uphill finish,
seniors,
so it's just like the worst time ever.
those classic sprints by gap year, I think were taking about 6 minutes or
Yeah,
longer.
yeah. So all that to be said is, yeah, I feel like maybe people who have traveled, people who are listening to this podcast as skiers who have maybe traveled to Houghton during that January 1st through 9th time period, maybe could, give Houghton another shot and travel there a different time of year because it sounds like very lovely.
Yeah, come do the Great Bear Chase in mid-March.
There we
Sunny,
go.
probably 20 degrees, decently fast snow. It's beautiful. So
But there's like
another
still
time of
four
year.
feet of snow because it's just been
Oh,
like snowing all.
more than that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we'll put it on the calendar. Great Bear Chase. That's what it's called.
Yep,
Yeah.
Great Bear Chase.
Skiathlon. Like,
Oh
50K.
boy.
only skiathlon I've done.
Okay, so lots of great things to say about Michigan Tech and Houghton as a whole. I'm curious, how do you feel like you both kind of developed as athletes while you were at school there?
Yeah, well, obviously I was going through my injury the first few years there, so I was working back from that as well. But I think a big thing that really marked our college journey was COVID, and obviously everyone went through that. But Houghton and Michigan Tech kind of pushed through it more than most schools, I would say. Nobody on our team decided to take a semester off or take the year off. Everyone showed up to school, and we had like pretty good restrictions on what we had to do, but there was still a lot of um, like open-endedness, so we could only train together like 3 or 4 days a week. And so what really happened to both Skylar and myself, like we kind of started to like pursue training pretty seriously together. So we would train pretty much every day together because we also lived together on the west side of Houghton. West side. So a lot of it was like being able to like mature as you get older and work with your coach and develop a plan to best like race for yourself as well as for the team around you. So a lot of working together and finding what intervals work for you at certain times of the year, how much volume you need, because at this time of your life, like you obviously have a big stress with school, but skiing is also a big stressor on the body. And Michigan Tech, even though I joked about how easy my major was, it's not the easiest school ever. And so learning how to like balance that and train at the same time, um, well, finding this new independence was, I think, where I really gained as an athlete.
Skylar?
Second, that first year for me with COVID was actually super tough. Actually, I also ended up overtraining pretty heavily that year. But the following years, like working with the coach, he gave us like a lot of leeway to kind of individualize what we wanted to do to achieve the goals that we wanted. And I think I had a lot of success with that. The 2 first summers out of college, or in college, I mean, our coach would always have us plan our own training, and I basically trained alone back in Park City, and I think that was a good experience for me to like kind of figure out what worked for me and to train. Just that was good, and it was a really good use of my training. So I really believe in trusting your training plan, and it's pretty easy to trust your training plan when you write the whole thing. So that worked pretty well. Yeah, and spent a lot of time training with Adam, and living with Adam was amazing because I looked up to him quite a bit and had a lot of older teammates that brought me up as an athlete as well.
Mm-hmm. So I'm curious then, while you were at Michigan Tech, how did you both kind of navigate the injuries that you were recovering from? So Skylar, I know you had the back injury. Adam, you obviously had the femur injury. What type of support did you have while at Michigan Tech? And then also, how did you support each other as teammates and fellow injury folks?
Yeah, well, our injuries kind of didn't really mesh over at the same time. Like Skylar's happened
Okay.
after I left, and mine was ending as he arrived. So not too much on like the helping each other thing, but I mean now we obviously talk about it when we live together post college as well. But um, no, at Michigan Tech we had a like obviously or I guess obvious isn't maybe the right word, but colleges have like pretty good access to strength coaches, but also PTs. And so my freshman year, after I tried to race and things obviously weren't going right, I got to sit down with the football strength coach, the skiing PT, and my coaches, and we developed like a 6-month plan to re-strengthen my leg, which was totally personalized to myself. And so that was like a really productive meeting that maybe we should have done the first week of school, but we thought, oh, we're on like a good track. But so that was really cool. And so then I spent a lot of time, obviously, in the gym at Michigan Tech, which we have pretty nice equipment there at a college. So I had like sometimes the strength coach would come in, have a one-on-one session with me. Sometimes I would do one-on-one session with my PT that was there. So pretty good support from that aspect.
Skylar, did you have this similar support system?
I had the same support system, but kind of not as good of an outcome. I would say I kind of needed to look elsewhere to get more support because my back injury was. I kind of jumped back into it. They didn't stop me from racing, so I had it over Thanksgiving break, and they gave me some anti-inflammatory meds to make it feel better, basically. But that kind of just led to me to racing earlier than I should have,
Mm-hmm.
to not race the whole rest of the season. Mostly just because it was hard to find someone in the UP that was like super specific in this back injury.
Mm-hmm.
I only ended up finding a PT that I talked to remotely from a friend of a friend named Peter Dickinson, who was like a PT for the US ski team once upon a time. I think he's or something. But he basically walked me through this recovery that started in late spring, and I was basically stopped doing everything and then slowly incorporate everything back in one thing at a time. Started with like literally just 10 minutes of making sure we mix it up.
Mm-hmm.
Also spoke with like some doctors in Utah in the spring, and yeah, the options were surgery and lose another year, PT, and fix it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot
Yeah,
of
the back
And
injury is pretty aggressive, so it's not like a muscle injury where you just start pounding weights in the weight room. So
yeah, and you chose no surgery.
yeah, I didn't feel like losing another season, and it would be like surgery, which would take me out for like 6 months, and then like the same PT that I'm probably already doing.
Okay, yeah. And how long ago was that?
Which the
The
injury or the PT or
I guess when did the injury kind of first arise, or kind of come back, like when you were at Michigan Tech, and then I guess what was the timeline of this injury?
hmm, it was the week of Thanksgiving last year. I tweaked it on the morning run, and then I went to back squat later that day and just like slipped.
Mm,
So one of
yeah.
them I was like driven for a week, like moving would like cause it to all seize up. And I
Hmm.
couldn't get into a doctor that week because it was Thanksgiving week, so I had to wait like a week to figure out what the heck was going on.
Yeah.
It was not a good timing.
Yeah. Well, I know that, so you both are new athletes to Team Birkie. So welcome to Team Birkie. Love having you in Minneapolis and getting to see you every day at practice. But I know that one of the main reasons why both of you chose to come to Team Birkie, and I think that there are many reasons, but one reason that you have both shared with me is that the access to continued, injury support system, whether that be through PT or docs or other resources that Team Birkie has connections with or opportunities with, was one of the reasons why you both chose to come to Team Birkie. Can you both kind of just explain, a little bit more about that? Like, what does that look like on a day-to-day basis? How are you both managing your injuries, or anything else that kind of creeps in today? And what has the support from Team Birkie looked like for that?
I've talked with, well, we have two doctors, Katie and Jesse, up in Telemark Health, and I've talked a little with them. But the most useful thing has been like the first week I got here, I think we were introduced to Kara Battles, PT at Precision PT, who's really amazing at rehabbing injured athletes, and I've seen her as much as I possibly can throughout the summer, and then a lot of it's just like strengthening on my own. But she's been really good at getting me back to where I've been needing to go.
Hmm.
yeah, and then for me, I mean the big thing, or obviously both things that's obviously got are pretty big, but the last 2 winters I spent mostly just waiting in urgent care rooms because I've been so sick. So I think last year I went to the urgent care 5 times from January all the way through March. And so having access to the two doctors up in Wisconsin is a huge plus for me because I've had like a lingering sinus infection for a long, long time. And then also this spring I tore my calf. And so when I got to Minneapolis this summer, I met Kara on the second day I was here, and I've seen her a few times, and we came up with a plan for the summer to strengthen the calf, build it back, start running again, start being able to ski again, bike again. So those those two things I didn't have the last 2 years where I was at such easy access to me. So that was pretty huge because the calf thing I didn't really know what was a problem this spring when it happened. All I knew is I couldn't really walk, and so having that like be so quick and getting into Minneapolis and 2 days later getting to see a PT was pretty game changing for my summer training for sure. So it's
Hmm.
pretty cool that we have that those uh, resources available to us in Minneapolis that are like so willing to help. Because the doctors, you can just text them whenever you want. They're super open to talking about anything under the sun. So that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's been great. I think it's been awesome to have those resources and having access to so many different perspectives or professionals, whether that be doctors or PTs or MTs or whoever it is, they can help keep our bodies together as best as possible. I do want to shift a little bit and talk more about like the mental side of the mental reaction to having an injury or rehabbing from an injury. So obviously, when you are injured to the point where maybe you can't train at all, you cannot go to practice, or maybe you can, but you can only cross train. That means that you don't get to go to team practice. You don't get to be around your teammates during training sessions as much. Maybe you still see them outside of training, but you don't necessarily form the same bonds as them. So I'm curious how you both have kind of adapted your relationships with teammates over time, whether that be through college or with Team Birkie now, as you have joined this new team, right? Like you want to come and meet your teammates, but you can't necessarily do the same training session that everyone's doing. So how have you found ways to maybe connect differently with your teammates when you aren't necessarily able to show up and come to training and do the same session as everyone else?
I guess if we had a camp in Steamboat this summer. I guess if I didn't really go to that, I would really train with any other team. So I'm pretty grateful for at least able to be around all the teammates here during that camp. Because I spent majority of the summer on just a road bike for training, and like only
Mm-hmm.
starting to get into going to team practices at the probably around the start of September is when I started able to go to almost every practice. So I'm really thankful that Team Birkie has these camps like that where we get to actually live together and get to know each other a bit more.
Yeah, I would say when I first got to college, I mean, my first week of college, I hadn't even been able to run yet. And so I was doing no training with the team yet. I was doing everything on my own. And so just taking the time outside of training to connect with people, the dining hall was huge, meeting all those people there and stuff. And then just like building a relationship outside of skiing, because then you really get to know someone too.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's easy to talk to someone at practice about skiing because that's what you're doing in that very moment. But getting to know people outside of skiing, what their hobbies are, what they enjoy doing in their free time, or what the cool stories they've had from the past, that's like the fun part of getting to know people. So
Mm-hmm.
finding time outside of that, and we've done a decent job here at Team Berkey getting together sometimes outside of training, but I mean you can always do better, but it's pretty easy to ask someone to hang out. And
It's also pretty hard to
Yeah.
compete with the way like college is organized, where like everyone's like super close, and at least at Tech, like people would just go to the library and work on
Mm-hmm.
stuff together, and like
yeah,
that basically brought a lot of people together over some of the years I was there.
Yeah.
So I guess the difference between pro and college with that aspect is definitely a little bit different.
Yeah. Did you feel like throughout kind of the numerous injuries that you both have had, obviously there are some pretty long recoveries and some days where maybe you're a little lonely doing rehab on your own or unable to join team practice and you're out on a bike ride by yourself. I'm curious, like, what made you kind of stay focused or motivated during some of those lonelier times or not as quite as inspiring times where you kind of kept going though?
yeah. I mean, there was definitely some days in there when I couldn't do anything other than sitting on the couch where I was like, okay, is this really worth it? But
Mm.
I had more days outweighed it of like, oh, I want to do this again. Like I want to keep going. I want to like go outside and ski. I want to go outside and run. I want to go outside and bike. And so I was pretty, at that time when I was 19, 20, I was still super, super, super driven to trying to get back to being a top athlete, because that's where my mind had been since I was, I don't know, maybe 7 years old. I mean, that's where my mind still is now. So maybe I'm not the best person to ask about like the motivation, but it's definitely easy to lose motivation at times. But I mean, my favorite thing to do is in the world is to ski really, 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 really fast. Like not necessarily even like racing, but just like going downhill at just unreal speeds and ripping through the woods.
It's a speed
And
junkie.
so I always wanted to get back to that. That was always like the number one thing on my mind, was being able to see how fast I could ski again, which keeps you going through the hard times. And when you're a little bit addicted to exercise, like I think Skylar and myself are, when you are missing it for a little bit of time, you really want to get back to it. And so I found myself, I was scrolling through my phone the other day because I needed to get rid of space, because we're doing a little project here on Instagram, Skylar and myself, where we have a lot of highly gigabyte videos that are getting downloaded to my phone. So I needed to free up
Oh
some
boy.
phone space. And I found a video of myself ski erging 2.5 weeks after I broke my leg. And I was like, man, I can't believe I videoed myself doing this, but I guess I was pretty determined to go back skiing. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure Skylar has a pretty similar answer of just being determined to come back and ski fast, because I know he likes to do that too. But it definitely can
Yeah,
be challenging on days where for the 8th day in a row, you're sitting at home alone on the couch, not being able to do anything.
Hmm.
those weeks where you're not able to get out are probably some of the roughest to go through. But coming back to it, even when you're feeling pretty bad with such a long time off, like I think the biggest motivator for me is just seeing the improvement. I
Hmm.
think that is like a big thing that keeps me going, along with just being outside training. Nothing beats being like at the top of the mountain, or running in the woods, or skiing in the woods. Like it's definitely a big motivator for me.
Hmm.
But outside of that, I guess just improving. Like two falls ago, I broke my wrist and I spent 200 hours on a bike trainer. My doctor told me I couldn't go skiing outside or something. But I had a power meter and a lactate meter, so I could watch the numbers go up, and that was enough for me to like keep going after it. Um,
Yeah, I think another thing is like surrounding yourself with people who believe in you. Because I had, when I broke my leg, I moved back home to New York, and I had a set of PTs there that knew that they could push me harder than they could push the old lady that comes in for PT.
Mm.
And so they were really trying to see how far they could get me over the course of the summer before I went to college, and going there 2, 3 times a week and just getting some guy who usually works with 80-year-old ladies, who then gets to yell at a 19-year-old to go harder or kick this lever. That was, yeah, that they enjoyed that, and they pushed me, and I liked it, and I wanted more of it. And having people surrounding your people with people like